Clemson intends to leave the ACC, and this is not a hot air up your skirt, clickbait. Is it going to happen? The lawsuit has been filed in a similar way to Florida State, but for a different reason. Clemson is now coming at the ACC from a different side as the Seminoles, and here's what you need to know. The most important part off the riff, when someone asks you at your water cooler tomorrow, why is Clemson leaving the ACC, and are they actually going to? I need you to know two things. One, they are leaving the ACC. Two, here is why. From the Tampa Bay Times, Clemson argues the only games subject to the ESPN deal, the ACC and ESPN's deal, are ones that involve ACC teams, not games played if and when Clemson is no longer an ACC member. Let's back it up. If and when Clemson is no longer an ACC member. That is a direct quote from the lawsuit. The Clemson Tigers are no longer going to be in the ACC, and they are navigating their way out in a very similar way to Florida State. The Noles and the Tigers are trying to do one thing at the very base level of this, one thing, find the cheapest way out of the league, out of the grant of rights, to find another place to make more money. One of the true catalysts to this, and here's more context. Let's unpack more context. Is the College Football Playoff Committee just recently agreed that the Big Ten and the SEC should make nearly twice as much money per school than the ACC and the Big 12, completely separating the realm of college football between the two mega conferences and the ACC and Big 12. In that, Florida State and Clemson also hitched on an awful TV deal with ESPN that the network can opt out of in 2025, opt out of altogether in 2027. With all of that parlayed, Florida State looked around and said, wait a second, Northwestern's making more money than us. Clemson looked around and said, wait a second, we are not making near as much money as Vanderbilt. How does any of this make sense? When the TV deal was bad, the grant of rights itself had everyone in the conference assuming that the TV deal was locked in with ESPN through 2036. Instead, the network can opt out in 2027. That was a point of contention. Florida State's attacked that. Clemson said, hey, you attack that. You go sue over there. We'll come sue over here and say that when we're not playing in the ACC, we don't have, like, they don't have the rights to this. We don't have to give our property to ESPN or the ACC. We need to go somewhere else. And if the College Football Playoff Committee has already told us by holding out Florida State out of the college football playoff as an undefeated team last year, if they've already told us we're going to pay you an excruciatingly small amount of money compared to other big conferences, Clemson believes that its brand is too big to sit and wither away in the ACC. Why does this mean that conference will collapse? That's simple. UNC's not going to sit around and wait. Miami's not going to sit around and wait. There are schools in the league that have said, look, at this point, it is best for us to look elsewhere. We're going to let the big brands lead the way, like Florida State. We're going to let the big brands like Clemson go. What's wild is the battle lines have started to form. This is more from TampaBay.com. Virginia President Jim Ryan said 5 other ACC leaders, this is nuts, agreed in December to preemptively sue Florida State, Virginia Tech, Syracuse, Duke, Wake Forest, and Boston College. Where all of those schools kind of fit into a category, Virginia Tech being an outlier, is that they are not power brands in the ACC. So they kind of hitched their wagon and said, you know what? Nah, I guess we'll sue Florida State with the ACC and hope that everybody stays together. So Virginia Tech is now a catalyst in keeping the ACC as one. But when that's the little guys that are actually coming together to agree to sue Florida State, I'm not sure they have enough power. Tampa Bay Times goes on to say that through an open records request, showed that 5 other schools approved the special meeting in January to formalize the suit. Miami, Louisville, Pitt, Georgia Tech, and SMU. So that other schools left over in the ACC were coming together to say, hey, if we all band and sue Florida State back, what if we can maybe keep this ship humming? Now with Clemson's intent to leave, with Florida State's intent to leave, I do not believe that North Carolina, that Virginia, that Miami, that even Virginia Tech and Louisville with their footprint will sit around and wait. Those schools are looking elsewhere, and conferences are looking for those schools. The big thing, and this was huge, When the ACC decided to add Cal, Stanford, and SMU, that was a complete desperation move. The reason why is the contract they have with ESPN says if you stay at 15 teams, we won't rework your deal. So then the ACC thought, well, if we start losing schools, we're at 15 right now. If we start losing schools, we're going to need some backup schools in here so we can backfill and not have our contract cut. By the way, it's already a pitiful contract. Each of these schools making way less than even the Big 12. So with that in mind, when those three schools came to backfill the ACC, that was a prime time, the great segue for Florida State to go, what are we doing in this conference where we can't make it to the college football playoff, where we're making dramatically less money than the Big 12, the SEC, and the Big 10? And what are we doing in this conference when we can make so much more and have a brand that belongs elsewhere and don't have to play SMU, who has limped into this league for free? And when Florida State said that, UNC and Clemson and Miami and NC State said, you know what? They've kind of got a point. In this point of the juncture, Syracuse and Boston College and Wake Forest, I understand why they're fighting all of this as much as possible. And I know I'm throwing a lot of things at you right here, but this is the business side of what's going on in college football. Clemson is leaving behind Florida State, and teams like Syracuse and Boston College are going to get left behind. They're trying on the ACC side to fight this as much as possible. And it seems like even Virginia Tech might kind of be piggybacking to say, hey, wait a second, could we maybe save this league? But at this point, when the number is set, if it comes out, if Clemson wins this lawsuit and they say, well, yeah, I mean, if you're not in the ACC anymore, we can't really hold you to this rights deal with ESPN, or if Florida State wins their lawsuit and it's, there was possible fraud committed and we've found that Florida State cannot be wrongfully held in this conference. At that point, Miami says, oh, we're good to go. Sweet. You guys led the way. We're good to go. Even Virginia Tech, who was initially kind of against the Florida State thing, thought, it's a kind of test the waters here. We'll attach ourselves to the ACC and hope for the best. When it comes out that Florida State and Clemson can exit the ACC for X amount of dollars or $0 altogether, that when that fee is established, that's when everybody else says, oh, sweet. We hitched our wagon at first to the ACC in the hopes it would stay together, but when it does not, we can leave and go elsewhere. And the reason these teams are looking to go elsewhere is not just, this is so good, is not just because the ACC sucks, right? And it doesn't even suck from like a talent standpoint. That's not anything in the case I'm making. It sucks from a money standpoint. These teams are flat broke compared to the Big Ten and the SEC. And Miami feels like it can make more somewhere else, a Louisville even. The reason that all of that is happening is because there's a look-in clause in the college football playoff committee's new approved playoff format. What does the look-in clause mean and what does it do? That is so wildly important, and it's coming up on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's emergency episode is brought to you by Better Together. Better Together is where I go and I play, and I have a cooperative daily fantasy application that offers a familiar experience for existing daily fantasy players with a social twist. You can play with a friend or a teammate. It provides a sense of camaraderie, enhances the social experience of watching sports, shows that synergy from working together gives you a better chance at winning than going at it alone. The team. In a way to stay connected with friends when gone are the days of watching sports together in person. We've got you covered at Better Together. BETTOR, Better Together. Your bracket's already busted. Daily fantasy platform at Better Together helps you pick more or less on real-time player stats, strategize with your partner to boost your odds, and more. Look, right now, download Better Together for the App Store. Sign up using promo code Locked On for a chance to win your share of over $1,000 in cash prizes. Remember that code Locked On, because winning alone is fun, but it's better together. That is Better Together. Visit there today. Today's show is also brought to you by eBay Motors. eBay Motors keeps your ride or die alive. I love eBay Motors because I wrecked my car a couple of times. And when I wreck my car, I go to eBay Motors and I say, eBay Motors, fix my car. Passion, drive, and patience brings home the winning trophy. You can get exhaust kits, roof racks, superchargers, LED headlights, and more. Speed, power, style. eBay Motors has got you covered. 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. An eBay Guaranteed Fit guarantees your part will fit. You're burning rubber, not cash. The prices you want. It's easy to turn your car into the MVP. Keep your ride or die alive. ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. That is ebaymotors.com.